They didn't seem dangerous. Not at first. They seemed familiar. That kind of familiar that doesn't feel like meeting. It feels like remembering. You leaned in quickly, not because you were reckless, but because they activated something. An ache, a hunger, a magnetic ache you thought was love. But it wasn't love. It was recognition. You didn't fall for them. You fell into them. Into a mirror you didn't know you were still carrying. A mirror that reflected not who you wanted, but what you never resolved. You didn't choose this person. Your shadow did. It started before them. Long before. When you first learned that love could feel like walking on glass. When care came with conditions. When closeness arrived only if you were easy. Only if you didn't complain. Only if your pain was invisible. And so, part of you internalized it. This is what connection feels like. This is what love demands. Years passed. You grew. You healed, or tried to. But inside you, the unresolved story still searched for someone to finish it. And then they came. Not with red flags, but with triggers dressed as chemistry. The same silence. The same disapproval. The same emotional withholding that your inner child still thought could be fixed if only you got it right this time. You weren't attracted to them. You were loyal to a pattern you never got closure from. They didn't see you. Not fully. But they made you feel something. And sometimes feeling something is more seductive than feeling safe. They touched your ache like they knew where it lived. But that wasn't intimacy. That was access. And part of you hoped, if they could just understand, if you could love them just right, if you could stay long enough, they'd finally choose you, validate you, stay. But they weren't a person. They were a reenactment. You weren't in love. You were in repetition, trying to win a war by bleeding into the arms of someone who only knew how to take. You mistook survival bonding for soulmate magic. Because your nervous system still believed chaos was chemistry, they didn't break you all at once. They broke you slowly, incrementally, lovingly at first. You started second-guessing yourself, your opinions, your instincts, your truth. You apologized for your tone. You questioned your needs. You kept the peace by abandoning your voice. And they called it love. But love doesn't erode your essence. Love doesn't feed on your shrinking. Love doesn't make you choose between being honest and being wanted. Still, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because part of you believed you had to lose yourself in order to be kept. They didn't imprison you. You handed them the key because it reminded you of home. A home built on conditional affection and performative worth. A home your shadow never fully left. There's something you never said out loud. To them. To yourself. To the version of you that endured quietly. You never said, I wasn't in love with you. I was in love with the version of me I thought you could fix. You never said, I wasn't addicted to your presence. I was addicted to the way you reminded me of everything I thought I deserved. You never said, I knew you weren't safe, but unsafe felt like home. And home is hard to question when it's all you've ever known. But now you were beginning to see it. You didn't lose them. You found yourself beneath the wreckage of a love that was never really about love. It was about reenactment. It was about awakening. It was about the mirror finally cracking so you could see the wound it was reflecting. You don't have to call it love anymore. You can call it what it was, a haunting, a familiar possession, a soul knot tied by the unfinished past. They weren't your future. They were your loop. And loops don't break because we try harder. They break because we wake up. One breath at a time, one boundary at a time. One no that feels like terror but becomes liberation. You self-abandon to be seen. Now you self-return to be whole. Not fast, not pretty, but real. You no longer need to be chosen by what resembles your ache. You can choose differently. Not because you've become someone else, but because you finally remembered who you were before you learned to betray yourself in the name of love.